Alright, at the end of last year I did a recap of the year, but I guess I kind of got to do a recap of the decade. It's a bit awkward because I was 15 at the start of the decade, so a lot of this doesn't mean too much to me because I was just mid-high school. But nevertheless, it should still mean a lot to plenty of other people. So let's go back to 2010. Alright, from my random collection of timelines from the internet, 2010, going through just a few. US and UK closes embassies in Yemen. Well, there you go. An enormous earthquake devastates Haiti. A confirmed death toll of over 230,000 people. And it looks like there was a few earthquakes and whatnot in 2010. A huge earthquake in Chile, killing 525 people. A deadly earthquake in China, killing 2,000 people, injuring more than 10,000. Volcanic ash disrupts air traffic in Europe. Heavy monsoon causes widespread flooding in Pakistan. Over 1,600 people killed and more than 1 million people displaced by the flood. An earthquake and tsunami in Indonesia, 400 killed and hundreds more missing. And eruptions in central Java, killing 300 and hundreds of thousands of residents told to evacuate. You had the 2010 Winter Olympics in Canada and a World Cup in South Africa, which was won by Spain. You had a whole heap of plane crashes as well. Ethiopian Airlines Flight 409 killed 90 people. Flight 771 kills 103 people, leaving one survivor. Air India killing 158 people, leaving 8 survivors. Aero Caribbean Flight 883 crashes, killing all 68 people on board. And the Polish president also died in a plane crash. President of Kyrgyzstan resigns. Nigerian president overthrown. Australia elected their first female prime minister, I think. Deepwater Horizon oil spill. That explosion killed 11 workers and was the worst oil spill in US history then. Military crackdown and protests in Bangkok. First ever 24-hour flight by a solar-powered plane occurs. Why aren't we hearing more of that? A lot of stuff seemed to have kicked off between North Korea and South Korea, and like South Korea had a Navy ship sink, but they still had the G20 summit there, and 2010 United Nations Climate Change Conference is held. I think in Mexico, and the Arab Springs begin. Good on you, everybody. This is going to take forever. I'm going to have to shorten some years down. 2011, Egyptian Revolution, New Zealand earthquake in Japan, there's a royal wedding, and Osama bin Laden killed. England had them riots, and they also had an embassy attacked, and Gaddafi was killed. Move on to 2012. A series of coordinated bombing attacks in Nigeria, killing 185 people, which was blamed on the radical Islamist group Boko Haram. Honduras prison fires killed at least 360 people. Second Greek bailout. Forgot to mention the first one. The president of Yemen resigns. There's a coup in Mali. And I think embargoes on Iran and their oil exports are stopped. There's a coup in Guinea-Bissau. The former Liberian president Charles Taylor was found guilty on 11 counts of aiding and abetting war crimes and crimes against humanity during the Sierra Leone Civil War. The Pinta Island tortoise dies out. An extra second is added to the year. 12 killed and many injured at a movie theatre shooting. The movie theatre massacre is the worst mass shooting in US history, as it says at the time. World's worst power outage with 620 million people without power in India. The Curiosity rover lands on Mars. Summer Olympics in London. Protests across the Middle East. Hurricane Sandy. Barack is re-elected, and looks like a whole bunch of stuff kicked off between Israel and Palestine, with at the very end of the year Palestine becoming a UN non-member observer state, whatever that is. Alright, 2013, let's do this. Alberta floods, a train transporting oil or gas killed 47 people in Quebec. Nelson Mandela died. Boston Marathon bombing. Edward Snowden and the NSA leaks, and Prince George was born. Typhoon hits Philippines. Syria chemical weapons. Bangladesh factory collapses, killed 1,100 people. Anti-gas and oil protests grow for the Keystone XL pipeline. And Australia votes in Tony Onion-eating Abbott. Alright, 2014, There was the Ebola epidemic, and the Malaysian Airlines with the flight 370 going missing with 239 people on board, and then flight 17 being shot down with 298 people on board. ISIS starts to rise. Robin Williams dies. Obama restores diplomatic relations with Cuba, and protests in St. Louis, Ferguson, over the death of an unarmed black man, Michael Brown, killed by a police officer, and the Lindt Cafe siege in Sydney. Alright, 2015. You have your TPP, Saudi messes with Yemen, Russia messes with Syria, everybody messes around with some climate change agreement, ISIS strikes on 3 continents, refugee crisis in Europe. Yeah, let's move this along. 2016, Donald Trump runs for president, Brexit, Zika outbreak, President Obama declares a state of emergency in response to the Flint water disaster, a popular tourist hotel in Burkina Faso was attacked with 30 people dead. Brussels airport in Belgium with 32 dead. ISIS bombing in Istanbul airport killing more than 40 people. And 86 people killed when a large truck drove through a crowd of people celebrating Bastille Day in France. Pulse nightclub shooting, and I believe Malcolm Turnbull was voted in as Australian Prime Minister. Here in 2017, on the random timeline I got for this, it's got Mohammed bin Salman of Saudi Arabia comes on the scene, the Rohingya crisis in Myanmar, Trump wins, the Grenfell Tower fire, and the globe is still warming. And Las Vegas shooting with 59 dead. Now, to be lazy about it, I'm just going to play the video I made for 2018 because, hey, why recap something twice? What do you mean 2018? Alright, well, we had a World Cup, second year of Trump's presidency. Australia went from Malcolm Turnbull to Scott Morrison. New Zealand's Prime Minister had a baby. Brexit seems to be going well. Mexico voted in a really good guy. Brazil voted in a pretty shit guy. And the Philippines still has a maniac that's on a mission to kill all drug dealers and drug users while he's on fentanyl himself. Back to Brazil, they have their former president Lula locked up, and it's absolute nonsense. Private prisons are dominating America and now popping up all over Australia. I haven't heard it stop, so I assume Chechnya is still locking up and torturing gay people. Speaking of torturing, well done USA on Gina Haspel. Locking people up. China has hidden re-education camps with it said to be up to 1 million Uyghur Muslims. And then there's the Rohingya Muslims, where I think 700,000 have fled Myanmar, formerly Burma, to go to Bangladesh for refuge because the military is doing a genocide, essentially ethnic cleansing of these people, and the soldiers are raping the women and they're doing horrible things like burning their villages, and it's an absolute slaughter. And I think the leader of that country got a Nobel Peace Prize while this is going on. Other places where people are being displaced because of horrendous violence are places in mid-America, Venezuela, and just as America uses people crossing their south border on foot, Australia does the same with people coming to our shores on a little boat, using them as political bargaining chips when if you're leaving your home, you must be in a pretty bad spot because I'm pretty sure nobody wants to leave their home. Where else have people been displaced? South Sudan, they reckon up to 400,000 deaths from things like violence, famine, and diseases like Ebola, kind of like Yemen, where they have cholera with 10,000 people getting it a week because of the Saudi and UAE-led genocide, essentially, with arms sold to them from many countries all over the world, and with the numbers that have been echoed through parliament houses and the internet everywhere, where a child under 5 will die every 10 minutes in Yemen because of what's happening. But hey, guys, 53 journalists have been killed this year. And at the beginning of the year, they were dropping Tomahawk missiles on Syria. And now troops are being taken out of Syria and Afghanistan. French people had enough, put their high-vis vests on and collectively gave the middle finger to the oligarchs in their country. Power to them. Indonesia was hit by a tsunami recently. America copped Hurricane Michael. I don't even think they finished cleaning up from Maria last year. Queensland's had savage fires. California's had savage fires. Greece had savage fires. I think floods have killed like 60 people in Europe. Sydney had a major dust storm. Australian school kids took to the streets because our government is a joke. And that's all I'm going to list as a summary of 2018. Okay, and the final year, this year that we're wrapping up, 2019, I suppose I should be able to do most of this by memory. So I guess we should start at the beginning of the year. One of the most earliest significant events was the Christchurch shootings, with around 50 people killed in mosques in New Zealand. Always good to kick off your year with a terror attack. We've had a lot of school strikes and climate strikes, calling in enormous numbers all over the world multiple times throughout the year. And Hong Kong's kicked off, parts of Europe have kicked off, large parts of the Middle East, South America, parts of Africa. And yeah, there's been a global effort to stand up against governments and corrupt bodies in power, with a cut to something for the people or a price hike in something that everybody needs tends to be the straw that broke the camel's back. Palestine isn't doing much better. Israel seems just to gain more power. Yemen still experiencing a genocide. China still has concentration camps. The leader of Myanmar just doubles down on the treatment of the Rohingya Muslims. But on the upside, Lula's been freed. Elections in Canada, they have the same guy. Elections in the UK land them with Boris Johnson. Elections in Australia lands us with the same chud we had before. And we're ending the year and therefore the decade with some of the most savage and violent and dangerous bushfires I've ever seen in my lifetime. So yeah, and we'll wrap it up there for my recap of the decade. And thank you for watching, everyone. It's been a great year. Look forward to a whole nother year of What Do You Mean videos. Feel free to comment below with any events I didn't mention, or even just to add more information on the ones I did. All about a shared learning environment here. Much love, Happy New Year, and remember, try to take no shit but do no harm, my friends.